So, good afternoon. And on behalf of our principal investigator, Dr. Linda Goggin, and myself, welcome to the National Family Support Technical Assistance Center's office hours. Today, we have a running series going on. We are continuing this year's office hour theme, Innovative Practices to Sustain the Family Peer Workforce, with today's subject is the Family Peer Career Ladder and grant writing. I think you're going to find both of them very interesting. I'm Gail Cormier. I'm the project director of NASTAC, the Family Center of Excellence, and we are led by the National Federation of Families. This monthly office hours series is designed with the family workforce in mind. Each office hour will focus on supporting the family peer workforce. This month, we will be focused on understanding the need for a peer workforce career ladder. We will also discuss the tools you need to write a grant and how we can build in a career ladder within the proposal. To lead this very important conversation are two family leaders and affiliate members of our family runs. Paula Preto, Executive Director of Association for Children's Mental Health in Michigan, and Ricky Harris, Executive Officer of Tennessee Voices. Before we meet these remarkable leaders, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's conversation is being recorded. The recording and any additional resources will be uploaded to our NASTAC website under the Events tab. And yes, we will send you a follow-up letter with all the information. If you have any technical difficulties, just type your comment and someone will be able to assist you. Please also type your question for the presenters in the chat box. We'll be watching the chat during the entire presentation. Our goal for office hours is to encourage a conversation between our guests, presenters, and all those in attendance. We encourage you to ask questions that will assist you in your daily work. We will unmute participants after the presentation portion is complete. If you can use your raise your hand button, that would be helpful. NASTAC hopes you leave this event invigorated and with new ideas to help you work in your own area. We ask that you take the time to complete a short feedback survey using the link provided at the end of the presentation. This survey will help us continuously improve our events, and it also fulfills our SAMHSA funding obligation to provide them with important data required by our grant. Please note, all information will be confidential and will respect your privacy. We do not offer CEU credits for our events, but you will receive a certificate of attendance after the survey is completed. I would like to thank SAMHSA for allowing us to share this information with you today, and thank you for joining us. I also want to point out our NASTAC Family Driven Language Guide. We always are trauma responsive, strengths-based. We avoid blaming caregivers. We're community driven, person first, respectful, non-judgmental, and consistent with our actions. At this time, I would like to introduce NASTAC project manager for this series, Dana LaBranch, and she'll review the goals for today's presentation.
Thank you,
Dana?
Thank you, Gail. So welcome to our second to last event in our Innovative Practices to Sustain the Family Peer Workforce. Our goal for this entire series is to support family peers in adding innovative practices to their toolboxes so that they can best support families. We hope to do that by inspiring leaders and emerging leaders to adopt these practices for sustainability for their own organizations and the family peer workforce as a whole. In each session, we introduce members of the behavioral health workforce, generally members of family-run organizations, to help share those practices. And we also encourage you to share practices with each other so that you can support one another. For today's session, our goals include being able to describe the possible leadership roles within that family peer ladder and how to advance to those positions. We also hope at the end of today's session, you'll be able to connect skills that family peers develops to other positions within the behavioral health field. We hope to give you some tips to write some effective grant proposals, and that you'll be able to negotiate with the state and other funding agencies for reasonable funding to cover all expenses incurred by the organization. We love to start out our sessions getting to know a little bit more about who is in the room with you. So if you could pull out your phone or head to menti.com and type in the code 61186775 and answer our 2 poll questions that we have there for you. The first one, are you in a peer support, management, or other role? And we'll see what folks are answering in the moment, and then I'll click to the next question for you to answer. If you are answering other, if you'll put that in the chat for us, that would be helpful. Looks like we have a few family peers, some executive directors or leaders of organizations, some management folks, but the majority of the folks are either family peers or others. The site is menti.com. If you look at the screen right at the top there, you can see where to type in. Gina has also posted a link that will take you directly there. And if you put other, please share in the chat, like Cassandra. She's a parent peer support trainer. I think we would put that maybe, would you put that under management, Gail, or is that a little different?
Management or other. Well,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that she's a parent family peer too, so she could be there.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question, but keep answering that one for us, and we'll share
peer recovery specialist. Excellent, Melissa.
And we'll share the full results with folks in the slides when they go out to you. Our second question here at the beginning of our time together, does your organization have a way for family peers to advance? So they might come in as a family peer, and how can they advance in their career within your organization? Looks like we've also got some project specialists on the call today, a board member, a caregiver specialist.
Oh, I love seeing board members here. That's great.
All right, it looks like a few more folks, organizations don't have ways for family peers to advance compared to those that do. And some of us aren't quite sure. Well, those of you whose organizations don't have a family peer career ladder, we hope that you learn some tips that you can take back and start to build that family peer career ladder. Again, keep answering these poll questions and you'll get the results when we send the slides out with the recording. But let's get started by introducing our presenters. So we have 2 phenomenal presenters with us today. You might have seen them last month in May, where they also were our office hours presenters. First, we have Ricky Harris, who's an executive officer for Tennessee Voices. She has a master's degree in marriage and family counseling, as well as Christian education. She's been working with Tennessee Voices since 2011, and she has done a phenomenal job bringing Tennessee Voices into a really important space in Tennessee. She's won awards both in Tennessee and Texas for her roles as a leader, advocate, and collaborator. And you can read more about her very impressive resume in the full bio you'll get in the slides. We are also super excited to have Carla Preto with us. She is the executive director for the Association for Children's Mental Health in Michigan. That is Michigan's statewide family network. She works with her lived experience to provide peer-to-peer support, leadership, opportunities, and advocacy for families and youth navigating serious mental health challenges. And she also has a passion for systems change that is deeply personal. Both Carla and Ricky bring their lived experience to their work, and we're so excited to learn from them today. And I will pass it on to Ricky.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that very kind intro. Well, you all, this is one of my favorite topics because it really speaks to our interest in leadership. And one of the things I say to my staff all the time, that no matter what your title is at work, you can still lead. You can be a leader in whatever role you hold. And then I also say this to them, often, great leaders create more leaders. So once you have sort of figured out your leadership style and you understand how to be successful as a continuous learner, of course, you never make it all the way to the top of everything you need to know as a leader. But as you learn to be successful, you should be passing that down. And I have a passion for passing that on. Everything I've learned, I think, is important to remember and to gift down to others who want to grow as leaders as well. And so I'm excited today to kind of share with you what we've tackled as far as growing a career ladder in our organization and a little bit of our history as we've done so. First, I'll say this. We have in our organization since 2011, when I started, grown a ton. And when I took over in 2014 as CEO, it was one of my goals to grow the organization. And I'm sure all of you have your eyes and minds set on growth goals, and not just growth, but also innovation. Thinking about how to continue to do our work in ways that best support the people and the evolving nature of people's needs. And so I am really proud to tell you that when I started as CEO in 2014, we had 22 staff, and today we have 250 staff in our organization. And I had a mindset for growth and creating opportunities, especially for people with lived experience, to begin a career and enjoy that career for a lifetime. Because what we know, and I know you know this, is the passion of a person with lived experience does not die. That passion grows. And if you water it, it just keeps growing. So what I'd love to share with you today is a little bit about the approach we took and the reason we decided that career advancement was so important for family peers and peer supports in general. One of the reasons we focused on career advancement was to improve our retention and recruitment. I mean, who doesn't right now need to focus on retention and recruitment? We are all hiring. We are all needing to keep the people that come to work for us, and we have to add value to their experience and in the work culture. One of the things we did early on was survey our staff and ask them what was important to them as they decided to work for us, what was important. And what we heard over and over and over was an opportunity for advancement and growth, personal development. They wanted to be able to grow both in their current role as a leader and eventually within the organization to continue to advance in their career. So we focused on this because that's what the staff told us they wanted. And we knew that if we were going to grow, we needed to figure that out. You know, career ladders also give you an opportunity to create this consistency in developing a succession plan. So people will come and go in the organization. That could be for many reasons, retirements, promotions, but they will exit their roles. And we know this is true. So if we're building consistency and we're working on helping people advance and grow, we're not only creating a succession plan, but we're also improving quality of care because we're advancing knowledge and we're trading that knowledge up every time someone makes a transition in the organization. I don't think I need to explain to any of you what a family peer is, but for the sake of making sure we're all on the same page, just referencing here what we mean when we refer to peers. Peers use their lived experience with recovery, and typically we use peers as the term for people working with adults. And then family peers are people working with parents, parent to parent, supporting other caregivers or parents with using their lived experience. So we'll use that as the context for our conversation today. What I want to share is how we think about at our organization a growth plan. And we don't look at growth as just going from direct care to management, or rather, I should say, we don't look at career growth or professional development as just advancing from direct care to management. We actually see a lot of pathways for career advancement and growth and ladders well beyond just what the titles are and whether or not one is in management or not. We see that as opportunities to grow your strengths in your current role, whether you're direct care or management. Whether you're pursuing certifications, whether you'd like to have specialty trainings, or you have your eye on senior roles or management roles, we want to help make sure you have a pathway to reach those successes. And so the way we do that is we allow people to define their own goals and their own career success. I want to tell you, it's really important to do this piece on the annual evaluation with your staff, is ask them what their career goals are. This gives them an opportunity to just let you into what their thoughts are about how they might think about their work 5 years from now, how they might see themselves showing up in a new role 2 years from now, 10 years from now. It gives you a little bit of a timeline and a goal to set with the staff to revisit that. And I will tell you often that in our goals that we see staff saying, I'd like to pursue advancement in my degree. I'd like to pursue special training, and often they want to pursue a certification as an FSS. So those are all things we should be thinking about when we talk about career ladder. It's not just a title and a promotion from direct care to management. We also want to make sure you understand that certification that builds capacity for your organization is so critical. So as I talk about certification, I just wanted to drop a slide that helped you think beyond maybe just one or two ideas, but that there's lots of ways to think about certification. Of course, the National Family Peer Support Certification is a great way to help a direct care provider, a family peer support, advance in their knowledge and growth in their career. You may have specific state-funded certifications or not state-funded, but state-supported certifications. And those are important processes to pursue in your own states if that's true. But further, things like trauma-informed care can really help advance the culture of an organization in the long term. So not only are you impacting the families' lives who you serve, but you're also impacting the way you relate within the organization and how you honor trauma-informed care and trauma-informed culture. So thinking about this in a broader context is the nudge here. Just think about how you can create career advancement and growth for folks that goes beyond titles. The other thing that we used, and we talked a lot about within our organization, what tools do we want to use to help our staff have a personal professional growth plan. And we did that in a couple of ways. We tried many things over the years, and honestly, I have picked what I think has been our favorite and our most successful. But I'll put a little side note here that's not on the slide to say, surveying your staff is the best way to figure out what's going to work for your team, your culture, your organization. The ways that you do your work together may lend itself to another tool. We surveyed our staff to kind of figure out what they wanted, how they wanted to be thinking about engagement in career opportunities, advancement, and growth. And what we learned is we needed to have a tool for staff that would help them understand their talents, their skills, and create an opportunity for themselves to work within their talents. And for us, the Clifton Strengths Finder really did this for us. What I love about it is it's not a focus on a deficit that a person has, that they need to learn some new things in order to be a leader or a manager or a next step. But instead, they need to learn what their talents, skills, and natural strengths are, and then use those to match themselves to a role that really fits their strengths and works among others who have strengths in other areas. So team approach, awesome way to get your team on board with understanding their own strengths and their own values within the organization. Coaching and mentoring plans are also really critical. This doesn't require hiring expensive coaches. I understand, I work in nonprofit like you. There's not always funds. While we have done this and we have been able to do this as we grow with professional coaches, in the early days of doing this, we just took mentorship opportunities with seasoned leaders who had done some of the same work that our direct care staff and helped them figure out how to access what they wanted to grow and learn. And so sometimes that was just suggesting a great book because now I know what this person is trying to do and pursue, and I know a great tool to help them. And so I'm suggesting a book. Sometimes it's helping them figure out their self-development plans and make sure that they have self-care plans and coaching them that if they're coming and showing up to work at their best, then their staff and their families that they influence will get the best. And then we created stretch roles within our organization. Let me explain. When I first started, we had 2 levels. We had direct care and management, and not a lot in between. And what was really hard is the role of leadership in an executive function often involves strategy and vision and finance and things that are kind of removed in a way from the day-to-day operations or even the direct care. So we needed somebody there to help kind of be that middle management to help us make sure we're communicating well from the strategy and the vision to the day-to-day needs of the organization. And I had a vision for having that middle level management grow within our organization because I believed in it so much that I thought it would be key to our success. So as we started out with 2 levels of management and about 4 people on leadership, we now have about 35 people in all levels of management, helping us make sure that we're communicating well, bottom up, top down, and that we don't leave anything on the table in terms of communication. So these are great ways to sort of think about why a career ladder matters and how much it can improve not only your services, but also your operations, your strategy, your vision, and your long-term growth, and potentially your innovation. We also take a lot of time in our organization to celebrate any kind of accomplishments in mastering a skill or, getting additional training. Anywhere in any way that you can recognize and acknowledge a step toward a career advancement or a step toward professional growth, we call that out. And the way we do that is a couple of things, but my very favorite is the recognition and reward process that we use in our monthly team meetings, all staff. We have a process for calling out accomplishments, given kudos for opportunities that people have taken advantage of to grow themselves in their own development, and then also to talk about and celebrate how much their own growth really matters within the organization and improves us as a whole. And so that is a great way. I mean, listen, people still love recognition, and it's important to provide affirmation for people. We also offer stipends and bonuses or pay increases whenever someone accomplishes one of those advancements, so that they understand that it's valuable to the organization to have these additional expertise. And so this is really critical, because I will tell you, affirmation meets the needs from an internal value standpoint. When you provide that affirmation and you affirm person's value, that's really, really top tier. But money touches their external value. And now you've said, not only do I value you from a heart-to-heart connection, but I also value you so much that I will pay for what you just did and what you're able to do for us. And so those are important things. And as you hear from Carla later, you can be thinking about how, when you're writing grants, you're writing in these opportunities for people to advance or to get more training or to pay them stipends when they achieve a career advancement. So what might a career ladder look like for us? We like to think about this in a couple of ways: an entry-level position, an intermediate, advanced, and a leader position, which I also added the / mentor, because the expectation in our organization is that if you make it to the point of being a director or a vice president or a chief, you should have the mindset that it's your job now as a leader to train other leaders, to help other leaders grow. And this is really critical. We have a couple of levels in our organization now that we've grown. And I'll be honest, I'm going to refer again to Carla's next presentation, but we use the opportunity to write into grants these additional levels and these opportunities for advancement. We have supervisors, program managers, directors, vice presidents, clinical director, senior clinical director, senior vice president, and chiefs. And while that sounds like, to me, if I was talking to myself in 2014, I couldn't have imagined we'd ever end up here with that many levels of opportunity to grow and advance in a career. But you can get there. No matter where you're starting, you can get there. There's also opportunities to support the operations of an organization that we don't want to rule out people thinking about. Training, billing, and leadership at all levels, including training. I heard somebody earlier say they were a peer support trainer. These are the kinds of things we want direct care, family peer support, and peer support providers to be thinking about future opportunities in other ways to support the organization. So these are also great ideas to consider and things to listen for when your staff are stating those goals to you at each annual evaluation that you do. I want to encourage you to start working on this no matter how small or how big you are today, because scale is important. When you're thinking about scaling and you're thinking about growing, I will tell you that unsupported growth often fails. And so as you're thinking about supporting this growth, you have to be thinking about who will I bring with me from a management standpoint to support this work. Unsupported growth will fail. And so you need great people all around you. If you are in FSS right now and you're thinking like, I don't even know. I mean, 50% of you said, I don't even know if there's opportunity to advance in my organization. I want to encourage you. Think about how you might work on advancing yourself. And by that, I mean, you're here today. You're taking advantage of this training. You now have a way to go back and say, I have learned these things. I have invested in myself and my growth in these ways. And when you do have a time, maybe it's an annual evaluation, to talk to your supervisor, state what you're thinking, what you're wanting, how you're thinking about your own personal advancements and where you want to see yourself. And then ask the question, what more could I do to continue to invest in this organization and advance? I've had no better conversations than the ones that are initiated by a staff member to say, I really love it here and I want to be here for a while. And I'd also like to advance in some way. How can I do that here? And I just want to encourage you to ask those questions of your supervisors. I was actually at a meeting this morning and they were reporting from the state how many certified family support specialists we have in our state. And what I realized when they said the number is that in our organization, we employ a third of all of the certified family support specialists in the state of Tennessee. And again, when I started this, we couldn't even help people understand what a family support specialist did. And so being a champion for the work of peer supports, being a champion for the work of family peer providers is almost key to the success, because you're going to talk about it and you're going to think, oh, people are sick of hearing it. But I'm telling you, they have to hear this 7 times before they understand how valuable it is. And you just want to be your own advocate, both publicly in meetings for the work that you're doing, but also in those intimate conversations with your supervisor where you get to talk about where you are, what you want, how you want to grow, and how you want to develop in your career. Lastly, I want to say this. I mentioned in the beginning that surveys are so critical. If you're wondering what your staff might be thinking, and maybe you're outside of the annual performance eval window and you want a big picture, I would encourage you to think about a survey. As I said in the start, surveys are how we learned that career advancement and opportunities within the organization were really critical for people. And we also knew that in order to retain people, we had to have those opportunities. And so when we started thinking about this, we started thinking about growth, we started thinking about workforce, and we understood because we asked, what do people want here in this organization? And then you can tailor that to the answers that you're given. Invest in the people who invest in you. And my point is, your staff have invested their career into your organization. And so as a leader, the biggest encouragement I can give you is to really focus, like nothing else matters in the world but your workforce. And I'll say this, as a CEO, I think about I consider, is my job to ensure that all the people who need services out there get those services? Or is my job to ensure that I have a workforce prepared and capable of delivering quality service? And I think about it more in the second bucket. If I have a prepared workforce who believes in the work they do, who are trained and treated well, who have opportunities to stay in your organization for a lifetime, then you are going to deliver quality services, and your work will be well supported across staff and clients who need you. So I'll wrap up here, and we'll be back in a few for later breakout conversations. I hope you'll bring some questions that you have. I'd be excited to talk through anything that you're thinking. Thank you all.
Ricky, it's always so inspiring to hear your nuggets of experience taking an organization from 20 something to 250. It just makes it feel so tangible. And so I'm excited to be able to give you all a little bit of information on how to strengthen your approach funding wise to be able to grow your organizations as well. I recently attended a grant writing workshop that had a mix of novice and seasoned grant writers, probably the same as in this audience currently. And one thing became immediately clear there, that there's always something new to learn. And I like, Ricky, what you said about trading knowledge up. So whether you're here today refining your approach or organizing more efficiently or simply hearing how others tackle challenges, every experience adds to your toolkit. By showing up to sessions like this, you're not only investing in your own growth, but you're contributing to the growth of others as well. So whether you take away one helpful tip or drop an insight into the chat, we're all going to benefit from this shared experience. And my hope is that no matter what your level of expertise is, you leave today with something new or something you help someone else level up. When we build stronger, more sustainable organizations together, we secure the future of peer services, we strengthen the support for youth and families, and we ensure the voices of lived experience continue to lead the way. We're going to imagine grant writing as a journey, a real adventure, and not just any journey. We're going to climb a mountain for our vacation destination. I personally love to hike and rock climb and ice climb, so I'm using this analogy very intentionally because I know that for many people, grant writing can feel very daunting and overwhelming, kind of like standing at the base of a massive peak, unsure of how you're ever going to reach the top. But the good news is, with the right preparation and gear and a clear path, that climb becomes doable. And like any great expedition, it might even start to feel exciting and something that you can take pride in. Assembling the right gear and investing in high quality gear can make all the difference between a rewarding climb and a miserable trek that leaves you questioning what it takes to finish. And the same is true for grant writing. So we're going to spend a good bit of time today on the preparation, making sure that it's high quality, because the better packed your bag is, the smoother the journey will be. These are the core documents of your essential gear. They're your foundation of nearly every proposal that you'll submit. And we're going to take a closer look at each category. If you haven't already gathered this information, it's a great place to get started. Think of it as packing your backpack before you hit the trail. Once these are organized and up to date, you'll be ready to move quickly when a funding opportunity opens up without feeling like you're scrambling at the last minute. These documents form your base camp. Without them, you can't start the climb. And funders rely on these materials to assess your legitimacy, clarity of purpose, and overall readiness. If you participated in last month's office hours, you might recall how important it is to know your mission. What does your org do? For whom and how? What is your vision? What future are you trying to create? This is your why, and it must align with any funding opportunity you pursue. Funders also want to fund organizations with clear purpose and direction. It's your compass and tells you and your funders which direction you're heading. Have your strategic plan that outlines your org's goals and priorities over a set time frame, usually 3 to 5 years, along with strategies to achieve them. This is your route map, your plan for getting from where you are to where you want to be. And it shows that your work is part of a bigger picture, an intentional strategy, not just reactive or one-off because there's a funding opportunity. Even a simple 1 to 2 page overview will work. Have a list of your board members with short bios highlighting their skills, affiliations, and connection to your mission, because funders look at your board to assess leadership, governance, and community support. You should have a visual org chart of your staff and reporting structure. And this is your rope system showing how everyone is connected and who's leading each part of the climb. Funders want to know who's responsible for what and whether you have the capacity to manage the proposed work. And the last documents prove you're eligible to apply and receive funding. They are permits, proof that you're allowed to enter the trail and eligible to reach the summit. They make sure your registrations are current and documents are easy to access when you apply. And this is your financial gear. Funders want to evaluate your financial health, transparency, and accountability. Your 990 shows you're operating responsibly and have systems in place to manage funds. It's proof of your past treks, evidence that you've planned well, made good use of resources, and came back safe and successful. Your organization budget shows overall income and expenses for the year, and a project budget outlines the specific costs for the work you're proposing in the grant. Funders want to see that you have a clear, realistic understanding of your finances and that you know what the grant money will support. You can keep a base template for both so you can easily adapt them to each funder's requirements. You also want to show that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket and that other stakeholders believe in your work. A list of secured and pending funding sources is like your climbing team in base camps. Who else is helping you along the way? How committed are they? Where else is your funding coming from, both confirmed and in progress? You want to include amounts, dates, and funder names if it's appropriate to show transparency and planning. And then prepare budget narrative templates that break down each line item in your project budget, how you calculated it, and why it's necessary. This justifies your request. Even if your numbers are reasonable, funders want to understand why you need that specific dollar amount. You can create a template with common categories like personnel, travel, supplies, and update it for each proposal. Both numbers and narratives are key. Funders want proof and human impact together. Your program gear include the tools that help you show what your nonprofit does, how it works, and why it matters. Funders want to understand both the logic and the lived experience behind your impact. You can use logic models or theories of change. These show how your programs work. And it's your trail map showing how you'll get from base camp to the summit and shows funders that you have a clear plan, not just good intentions. You want to draft short, clear summaries of your programs, what they do, who they serve, how they work, and what makes them effective. Think of this as the sturdy hiking boots of your proposal. They're reliable, essential, and used on every trek because they're often reused in multiple proposals. So you want to have one paragraph or one-page versions ready, and those will save time and ensure consistency. Quantitative impact data are the numbers that show you what you've accomplished. They're the numbers served, improved outcomes, cost effectiveness. They're your elevation markers, concrete signs of progress on the trail. Some examples might be 85% of participants improved attendance, or we served 312 families in 2023. Funders need measurable proof of your impact to justify their investment. Gather personal narratives from people you've helped, ideally diverse, powerful, and real, but also ensure that you have written permission to use them publicly. And think of these as your campfire stories, the heart of your journey that help others connect to the purpose behind the climb. Numbers matter, but stories stick. And reviewers often remember one story more than a dozen data points. This is your relationship gear. Funders want to know you're not climbing the mountain alone. These documents demonstrate credibility, trust, and capacity to collaborate, which are key to winning grants, especially for community-based or systems-level work. You can prepare draft letters of commitment that your partners or collaborators can personalize and sign to express their support for your project. They're trail notes from past climbers who vouch for you, saying, yes, I've seen them on the mountain and they're prepared. Funders want to see that others in your community or sector believe in your work and are willing to endorse it. And ideally, the letter will include the organization's role, why they support your project, and are they any planned collaboration or in-kind support. A memorandum of understanding is a formal written agreement outlining roles and responsibilities between your org and a partner. You may have less formal documentation as well that shows collaboration like emails or meeting minutes. And this is your climbing contract saying who's carrying what gear, who's setting up base camp, and how you'll support each other up the mountain. MOUs are especially valuable for grants involving joint work, referrals, or shared services, and they demonstrate accountability and alignment. And they're often attached to proposals as proof of commitment. Keep a list of past collaborations with talking points that describe successful past partnerships, what you did, with whom, and what the results were. These are your expedition highlights, snapshots of previous climbs that show you can make it to the summit with a team. Funders might ask about your track record of collaborations, and it shows you've already worked well with others and can be trusted to lead or partner again. So are you seeing a theme develop here? You should be seeing that there's lots to pull together, and you want to house all this in a single location. So you might need to generate some multiple spreadsheets or another similar tool to start combining all of this information. Here's your credibility gear to prove your team is qualified, your work is accountable, and your impact is measurable. Funders want to know who's doing the work and how you'll show that it's working. Keep short bios, about a paragraph to a page, for each key staff member involved in the project, outlining their experience, skills, and relevance to the proposed work. Ricky mentioned you want to highlight your staff along the way. And this is where you really can do that. You can show that you have a prepared workforce in these sections. You can include things like education, certifications, licenses, years of experience in relevant work, their specialized skills, if they have trauma-informed training, they're bilingual, and their roles and responsibilities in the proposed project. Funders want to see that the people leading the project are experienced and capable, and it builds trust in your ability to deliver results. You also want to plan for how you'll measure the success of your project, what you'll track, how often, and how you use this data. It tells where you are and how close you are to reaching your goals. And you want to give this adequate attention. Don't skimp here. You might include key performance indicators, tools or surveys that you'll use, who will collect data and how often, and plans for data analysis or visualization. Funders want to fund impact, not just activity. A clear evaluation plan demonstrates that you're serious about learning and accountability. Even a simple framework, like what will be measured, when, and by whom, is better than none. And if you have a visual dashboard, that's even better, but it can be challenging for smaller organizations. We don't have a visual dashboard. You want to have a clear data security and confidentiality plan for how you'll protect the privacy of people whose data you collect, which is especially important when working with youth, families, or people with mental health needs. This is your safety rope and harness and ensures everyone stays protected as you move forward. You want to include details like secure encrypted storage, access controls, de-identified or anonymized reporting, consent and release processes, and that you're following relevant laws like HIPAA and FERPA. Funders want ethical partners. Showing your protocols for protecting information builds trust and shows compliance with legal standards. And then give real examples of how you've measured and reported your outcomes in the past. This could be a graph, a dashboard screenshot, or a short story backed by data. It proves that you not only set goals, but also actually measure your progress and use what you've learned. So we're almost through with our prep, but you'll see in our next section how we breeze through that because you already have almost all of this ready to go. You enhance your organization's credibility and demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of the communities you serve when you integrate these components into your proposals. And you can establish a narrative bank to save time and keep your language consistent across multiple proposals. You need to present demographic information in your grant proposals to illustrate the reach and relevance of your programs. Prepare detailed information about the populations your organization serves, including data on age, gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or other relevant characteristics. The demographic data helps funders understand the communities you impact and assess the alignment between your services and their funding priorities. You can also develop a repository of standardized paragraphs that succinctly describe your organization's background, key programs, and target populations you serve. Having ready-to-use content streamlines the grant writing process and ensures consistency and efficiency in your proposals. And then you can customize these as needed to align with specific opportunities. Okay, I know that was a lot of work up front. And here's the good news. Maintaining it is much easier. Think of it like your climbing gear. You're not replacing all of it every season. Most pieces just need a tune-up or occasional upgrade. And the same goes for your grant prep materials. Once your documents and tools are in place, you're really just reviewing, updating, and tailoring them to fit the specific opportunity. It becomes a manageable ongoing process and not a scramble every time as opportunities pop up. And what I've learned is that even the toughest climbs become achievable with the right preparation. I will never forget my first year ice climbing. It was minus 20 degrees outside and I did not have the right gear. I was cold and absolutely miserable and seriously questioning my life choices. And the next year I invested in high quality gear and it changed everything for me. It was so much more fun and engaging. And it was the same location, same challenges, completely different experience just due to that gear. And that's really the power of preparation. Once you've assembled your gear, your documents, data, team, and strategy, you're ready to start the ascent with more confidence and a whole lot less discomfort. So next, we're going to look at some people call them RFP, request for proposals, and you'll also hear NOFOs, notice of funding opportunities. So those will be used interchangeably, and I'll probably just say RFP because that is more common in my language. But it's the same thing that we're referring to. And you'll think of this as your trail map, the roadmap that funders give to you. And I'll walk you through the key elements to watch for and some tips to help you stay on course. And the best part, you'll start to see how much of it you've already covered just by being prepared. So you want to focus on each RFP like it's an individual adventure. Start every grant by dissecting the RFP, create a checklist, and highlight deal breakers. You want to always start with eligibility. If your org or project doesn't qualify, there's no point in even moving forward. Check for things like nonprofit status, location, population served, and the type of work. The award size and duration tell you how big the opportunity is and how long the funder expects the work to run, and this helps you decide if it's worth pursuing. Some funders require you to bring other money to the table, and it could be cash or in-kind contributions like staff time or donated space. So make sure you can realistically meet that requirement before committing to the application. Funders are very specific about what their money can and cannot pay for. Some will cover staff, but not overhead. Others might exclude equipment or food. So double check this section before building your budget or risk wasting time. Check the submission method and deadline. And it sounds simple, but it trips people up all the time. So make sure you know where and how to submit, whether it's email or online portal or by paper, and when is it due. Some deadlines are hard cutoffs, so you can't even miss them by a minute. And if the funder provides a scoring rubric, pay attention. It's basically the answer key and tells you what reviewers are looking for, how they'll assign points, and where to focus your time and energy. Write your proposal with the rubric side by side. Because reviewers score by the rubric. Make their job easier and you'll earn more points. When you're reading the RFP, highlight the verbs in the narrative instructions, words like describe, demonstrate, justify, outline. It'll tell you exactly what the funders want to see in your answer. If it says demonstrate capacity, don't just describe your team, prove they can do the work. These verbs are clues to how you should respond. Take the language straight from the RFP and turn it into a checklist. If a prompt says, describe your evaluation methods, including tools and frequency, then your checklist should include describe tools, describe frequency, explain how they support evaluation. It keeps you from accidentally skipping parts of a multi-part question as well. And if you have access to the scoring rubric, use it like a roadmap. Some funders literally assign points per bullet, so mirror their structure. If a section is worth 20 points, that's not where you write one paragraph and move on. The more weight it carries, the more effort it deserves. So make it easy for reviewers to give you full credit. These are some of the easiest ways to get disqualified before anyone even reads your proposal. Submitting in the wrong format or through the wrong portal is a common mistake. So you don't want to submit a PDF instead of a Word doc, or email instead of uploading to a system. Missing word or page limits is another silent killer. Some funders won't even open proposals that are too long. And leaving sections blank or skipping part of a multi-part question makes it look like you didn't follow directions. So even if something doesn't apply, always say so briefly instead of leaving it empty. One simple tool that can make a big difference is a grant tracking spreadsheet, and you can use it to list key requirements, track your progress, whether something's done, pending, or needs attention, and keep your notes all in one place. It's especially helpful if you're working as a team, so everyone stays on the same page and nothing slips through the cracks. In our organization, we use Microsoft 365 to keep everything organized, and I build out spreadsheets that track all the key pieces, deadlines, requirements, responsible staff, and then include links to relevant documents. So everything is right there in that sheet, and we have a single centralized place to visualize the whole process. The strongest proposal struck a balance between heart and evidence. Use compelling stories that you've already consolidated, and pair those with solid data that back up the need and show your outcomes. Avoid exaggerating though, so funders can spot inflated claims and they want to see honest, achievable impact. Good writing gets read, so use bullets, headers, and white space to make your proposal easy to scan, especially for reviewers, and mirror the funder's priorities and language to show alignment and help your proposal resonate. Avoid using jargon. And then when you're building your budget, include what you really need to run the program. Don't lowball just to seem more fundable. Make sure your budget tells the same story as your narrative. So every dollar should connect to your plan. And if the funder allows it, don't forget to include indirect costs, because that's how you cover essential overhead like admin and rent and utilities. And your budget numbers are only half the story. The narrative is where you explain why each cost matters. So use templates to save time and keep things consistent across proposals. And be sure to clarify or to justify common items like salaries, fringe benefits, and supplies. And like Ricky mentioned, also that ladder to help staff to be promoted and to further their professional development. First and foremost, follow the instructions exactly. Even small deviations can get your proposal disqualified. So align your proposal with the funder's goals, show them how your work directly supports what they care about, and make it easy to read and score. Then once you submit, don't lose track. Log each proposal with a deadline, status, and follow-up dates. If you get a rejection, don't take it personally. Ask for feedback when possible, and it can help you strengthen for the next one. If you do get funded, be ready for what comes next though. Reporting requirements often start right away, so build that into your prep. You can do that using tools such as Excel, Asana, Trello, Google Calendar, whatever it takes to stay organized. But you want successful grant writers think long term, and they map out annual deadlines and cycles. So you're not always reacting at the last minute. So you can work backwards from each due date, set internal milestones for drafting, reviews, and approvals, and so on. Grant writing can feel like a tough climb, but with the right preparation that we've gone through, the right tools, a clear path, it is absolutely doable. And now you've got the gear, the map, and the mindset to take it on. Every proposal you write is a step forward. And even if it doesn't get funded, you're building skills, relationships, and momentum. So start small, stay steady, and don't forget to celebrate when you reach each summit.
Well, thank you, Carla. And thank you, Ricky. This has been great. Are we going to break out into groups? Oh, here's the breakout room, community comfort agreements. And I think everybody here knows these, but I'll just say them so we are all refreshed. We use person-centered, family-driven language. We focus on strengths, solutions, and future opportunities rather than denting. We want to move forward. We don't have to go backwards in our breakout groups. We want to make space for all voices with the three then me philosophy. Love this. If you shared, leave room for three others to share before contributing to the conversation again. And we have saved presenters' questions, and there were a lot of questions coming to me privately and being written in the chat. And I promise you, I copied them all down, and we'll get to them during the question and answer period at the end of this session. So now we're going to break out into groups, and I believe the two questions will be, how can you support family peers in moving up the career ladder? We'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about the one that's true to my heart here. What scares you the most about grant writing? Check out the grant writing gear checklist. So we're going to talk about what scares us about grant writing. So let's break out. So I think we're actually ready for our questions and answers. And Carla and Ricky, we have a lot of questions for you that I was collecting. So while I'm asking a couple of the questions that were asked of us during the presentation, please feel free to take your mics off, put your cameras on, raise your hand. We'd love to hear your voice and hear your question personally. And while you're getting ready to do that, I'll ask a couple of questions. One question that was asked a couple of times was, do you know of any grant writing workshops that were good? I think Carla just gave us one, but anyone at all, if you can take your mic off or put it in the chat, please let us know. Carla, do you have any recommendations?
Yes, not for any that are like established on some regular basis, but I always look for opportunities in my state or local in my county, and I join those opportunities. I mean, every time that you are in a new setting, you will hear people with different takes on things, their perspective and how they approach it, and you will adopt your own way from that. I don't think there's any one set way, right? Like there's tips and tricks from everyone who sees things a little bit differently, and you'll find the things that align with how you work. So look for those opportunities that are presented through like the local universities or other groups. Like we have a suicide prevention coalition, and they had that built into that. So different coalitions and stuff will do that just to enhance the knowledge base of their membership, right? And so you can look for those opportunities as well. I find those to be very helpful.
Thank you. And one really great piece of advice, don't get creative. It's one of the one things that we usually say, get creative and think out of the box. Not when you're grant writing. Try to answer the questions exactly how they say it in the exact order they say it. and you may even see that you're repeating yourself, it's okay. You need to repeat yourself. If question one asks you something and you think question two is a repeat, doesn't matter. Repeat what you said in one, answer question two. Do you have a budget?
What
No.
a great advice, because I like to be creative and I get in trouble.
No creativity in grant writing, unfortunately. One thing that goes with the grant workshop that a couple of people asked was, how much does it cost, or can you get a grant writer? Does anyone have an answer for that?
I can tell you it depends on their level of experience. They can be, what I've found recently is that there are some really well funded folks who have a good track record, and they are professional grant writers, and they want retainers for at minimum 90 days or 3 months, and they cost anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a month.
Yeah, it's expensive. And quite honestly, you can do it yourself. It's just scary.
I had a friend tell me that she could write her salary into the grant. Is that something that she could do? Yes. So
Yeah,
she,
you can. You have to
she
give
said-
yourself a job.
yeah, I
in the
was like, I
grant.
don't have any money to pay you. And she goes, well, I would write my salary into the grant. So
Yes, you're treading on a fine line, but yes, you can. And I see that at 3:30, oh my goodness, is already up, and we have a lot of questions here. Really quickly, how to create a logic model. SAMHSA, if you go on the SAMHSA website, if it's still there, has a great webinar on how to create a logic model. And SAMHSA actually likes their logic model only. So it's really good to learn how they like it and how they write it. Our time is up, and I have a list of questions. What I would like to do now is I will ask Dana to put the questions that we have, and we could probably answer them, or have our Ricky and Carla answer them, and you'll get it in your follow-up letter. So at this point, I want to thank Ricky and Carla. Carla and Ricky, this has been fabulous. So I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone. And there's a couple of things coming up one's coming up in July, and it's finding families that would benefit from support. Sometimes you have an organization, you have all the family peers, but how do you get the families you need to serve? That does happen, believe it or not. We also have a great webinar, couple of webinars coming up this month. One of them is how to promote your work, how to show off your work. That's really important. That webinar is going to tell you how you can promote your work, and you need that also to put in your grants. So it's a win-win if you attend that webinar. Next slide. Here's our contact information. Feel free to contact Ricky or Harris. Their contact information, Ricky or Carla, their contact information is on this slide. But so aren't mine, Linda's and Dana and Gina's. So always feel free to contact us. And of course, here's the part where I always beg you. So please, if you could fill out the survey and tell us how we did today, I would so appreciate it. You could follow the link that's put in the chat. You could follow the QR code, or you can exit out of this event and it should take you right to the survey. And then you will be able to take the survey. And once you finish the survey, you will be able to get your certificate of attendance. It should be smooth, taking you one place and then the other. And as Gina said, make Gail happy and get your certificate. So thank you all for participating today. I love office hours, and I love the information we had today for you. So thank you very much.